All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this installment of the Systematic Reviews webinar series, Standards and Guidelines. What are Joanna, Briggs, and Cochrane? My name is Emily Johnson Barlow. I am an associate professor and regional health sciences librarian at the Library of the Health Sciences, Peoria. I also want to acknowledge my admin, Kim Whalen, who is an assistant professor and associate services liaison librarian at the Library of the Health Sciences, Chicago. She'll be assisting letting people into the room as uh, we go through the presentation, as well as entering links that I reference into the chat. If you have any questions, she will be helping me monitor the chat so I don't miss any as we go along. So please use the chat as we move through the presentation. And I wanted to just kind of start out this session, this webinar of why this topic. Um, it's mainly because I felt like I didn't know very much about the standard and guidelines. I had kind of a sense of a few of these collaborative groups, but not really an in-depth understanding about what they do, what they offer, and what I could take away from them for my own practice with evidence synthesis. So I'm hoping to kind of share what I've gathered with you and just know that I'm definitely not the expert, but I do hope that what I share will allow you to explore this topic as well. Some notes for today. As I said, the presentation will be recorded and we will be sending out a link to that recorded presentation, hopefully within the next week. And then, like I said, if you could please enter questions into the chat. I will be addressing them periodically during some pauses through the presentation. I also want to admit that I have a cold right now, so if I do pause, please know that I do hope to return after having a sip of water or needing to turn off my camera. So please know that I am trying to make it through this presentation without having that tickle appear in my throat. So, so thank you very much for your patience as I go through this. I wanted to start out that I will be referring to evidence synthesis throughout this presentation, and that is kind of this larger overarching term of the types of reviews that have this transparent methodology to them. If you need more guidance on what review to use for your type of question, I highly recommend going back and taking a look at my colleague Rebecca Rozuski's presentation about overview of reviews. She has uploaded it to the YouTube channel. It was presented earlier this spring. And there's also what review is right for you. And that is a tool that I recently discovered that kind of guides you through kind of this flow of questions of how to choose a review from your question. So thank you to Kim for putting those in the chat. So the goals of today, we will be discussing major organizations and institutes who are shaping evidence synthesis methodology, and then discussing strategies to find manuals, guidelines, standards, matching your review type and disciplinary need. So before I kind of move into these organizations, I want you to kind of recall from your knowledge and experience, what professional organizations do you know of that are focused in on producing high quality evidence synthesis review? And so if you could, in the chat, um, name a few that you might have encountered in your experience. I'm seeing Cochrane, 2 options here. That's great. Any others that anyone wants to bring up? All right, I think we'll introduce some to add to your knowledge and experience here. During this presentation, I want to make a differentiation between 2 different types of guidelines that we'll be talking about. The first is a conduct or a methodological guideline. And those are the types of guidelines that kind of tell you what to do and how to do it during kind of the research experience. Whereas a reporting standard or guideline is what you need to communicate within a manuscript or presentation about your research. So I've divided the presentation to account for those 2 kind of types of guidelines. And it'll hopefully allow you to approach these a little bit differently as we go along. So, as I said, a conduct or methods guideline provides a set of rules or guidance for a specific methodological process. Ideally, they would be provided by a group or consensus of experts to arrive at a process in which something should be done. And the groups that are conducting or providing conduct or methodological guidelines are the Cochrane collaboration, the JBI, as well as the Campbell collaboration. So let's talk a little bit about Cochrane. This is pretty much the big name when it comes to systematic reviews. It is named for Archie Cochrane, a medical researcher who contributed greatly to the development of epidemiology, and it was founded in 1993. The Cochrane collaboration aims to inform clinical practice by conducting and disseminating systematic reviews of medical interventions. The Cochrane collaboration has produced many different products in order to address that, including one of their including the Cochrane library, which UIC does have access to. And that also has the clinical answers, trials, as well as the collection of systematic reviews. Oftentimes, the reviews that are conducted by the Cochrane collaboration are termed as living systematic reviews. So they're constantly being updated and part of as part of the Cochrane library. The collaborative groups use the methodological or conduct guidance from the Cochrane handbooks. There are several handbooks that are available, including the systematic reviews of interventions, of diagnostic tests, as well as something that I'm really interested in uh, is the book for information specialists of how to handle the kind of information that you put into a systematic review. The manuals provide guidance on the standard methods applicable to every type of synthesis review, including planning a review, so that protocol piece, um, searching and selecting studies, data collection, risk of bias assessment, statistical analysis, grade, which is an evaluation or appraisal piece of the evidence, as well as interpreting results, as well as more specialized topics, including if you have non-randomized studies, uh, economic considerations, qualitative research, etc. So it's a very comprehensive overview. One of the most recent handbooks, something that I learned in my exploration of this topic was they have a new handbook for the Cochrane and Campbell collaboration for qualitative evidence synthesis. We'll talk a little bit more about Campbell in a little bit, but this handbook really aims to provide guidance on the process of preparing and maintaining systematic reviews for qualitative evidence. It addresses more aspects of qualitative methodology when synthesizing, um, which addresses theory, meta-ethnography, as well as confidence. It's not complete yet, but I'm sure it'll be very highly used for qualitative evidence synthesis. With Cochrane, I did want to mention that the membership is free. So if there is a group that that's part of Cochrane that you're interested in, it is something that you can join in and work towards preparing these reviews as well as working on the translation efforts that happen. So if you're interested in Cochrane, exploring more, it's definitely uh, uh, one of those heavy hitters when it comes to evidence synthesis. The JBI is abbreviated from the Joanna Briggs Institute. Joanna Briggs was the first matron of the Royal Adelaide Hospital, and this institute is now based at the University of Adelaide in Australia. Since its inception, the JBI has strived to provide the best available evidence to inform clinical decision making at the point of care. One of the ways they do that is through the JBI manuals, including a manual of evidence synthesis, which was just updated this year as I was developing the presentation. So 2024, new publication date. This manual provides guidance to authors for the conduct and preparation of different types of evidence synthesis. And it includes separate chapters that are devoted to that, as well as how to address different types of review questions as well. Two unique review types that I have sought out from the JBI are the umbrella and scoping reviews. These chapters are things that I have referenced and sent to patrons who have expressed interest in these types of reviews. Mainly because I feel that they're really well developed and easily consumable to understanding why you would choose this type of review and how you might go about working with this method and this conduct to produce this method. I will also say beyond the reference material, there's some collaborative efforts to produce reviews by JBI, and that includes the Scoping Review Network. Um, this is supported by JBI Scoping Review Methodology Group, and it's a collaboration of individuals interested in scoping reviews. The network is created for those who are first-time authors, to those who have experienced this type of review and produced scoping reviews in the past. They also have protocol templates, various recordings for training um, that you can view for free on their website. So JBI is another large group that is trying to refine and add to this type of evidence synthesis methodology. And last of the big three that I wanted to really explore for this presentation is the Campbell collaboration. It is an international social science research network that produces high quality, open, and policy relevant evidence, synthesis, plain language summaries, and policy briefs. It is named after Donald Campbell, who is an advocate who advocated for the idea that government reforms can be seen as societal experiments to which scientific rules of evidence can be applied. So he was another big epidemiology researcher that made a mark into social science research. Campbell Reviews aim to differentiate themselves by publishing reviews that follow best practices for methodology, as well as including relevant unpublished materials in gray literature. They require an international scope, as well as they aim to provide answers for decision makers by using rigorous methods from peer-reviewed protocols to the statistical analysis in order to synthesize the evidence together. The reviews are generally focused on a range of themes that includes aging, business and management, children and young persons' well-being, climate solutions, crime and justice, disability, education, international development, knowledge translation and implementation, methods, sexual orientation and gender identity, and social welfare. All of these themes are overseen by the collaboration's coordinating groups. And so those coordinating groups are responsible for the production, scientific merit, and usefulness of Campbell publications. They provide editorial services and support for the authors, and they aim to build links with users to the publications. The methods group that I mentioned before is also the main group that collaborated with Cochrane in that earlier mentioned manual for qualitative evidence synthesis. So they work together to produce several of these manuals for conduct. For the reviews and the gap maps that they produce, the protocols as well as the reviews are published within their open access journal, the Campbell Systematic Reviews. I found when I was reviewing Campbell, they had a very robust educational section of their collaboration. They have several trainings that are recorded, as well as a whole new asynchronous open education resource on how to conduct Campbell reviews. So I highly recommend taking a look at that if this is your first time taking a look at evidence synthesis, especially if you anticipate working with qualitative data as a result of your collection of materials. So those were the big three that I discover and kind of reflects on some of the patrons that I've helped in the past with evidence synthesis. But I do want to point out that there's several others that collaborate in order to um, uh, put together synthesis reviews as well. They either focus in on a specific disciplinary need or a specific type of review. So a couple that I wanted to mention here are the Collaboration for Environmental Science. So they are really focused in on environmental policy and practice as part of a public service. The International Association for Health Professions Education took over a review called The Best Evidence in Medical Education that puts together synthesis review of health professional educational best practices. And they were formerly known as the BEME reviews. And then finally, the International Network of Agencies for Health Technology Assessment. So, health technology assessment is a specific type of synthesis review that focuses on uh, technology and the overlap with health and if that thing works within that setting. So, they have uh, the a governance body that looks over how to produce those reviews, as well as maintain a bibliographic database for health technology assessment. So they're a great resource to see what has been done in those types of reviews. So um, there are many, many more out there. I, I wanted to make sure that we stayed within the hour that we had. I don't think we'll make it to the hour, but just know that there are several more out there. And if you want to if you want to see if there's something out there, feel free to get in touch with me and I can do some digging and searching for different types of collaborative organizations for you. And you're probably wondering, now that we've gone over all these different types of conduct reviews, different types of collaborations that have put these together, which one do I choose? I do not believe that you need to choose a specific one in order to produce an evidence synthesis. And I mainly say that because there's so much collaboration happening between these groups that they have members serving within these different collaborations at the same time that they reflect upon each other. Um, if you have time, I suggest looking at several of these handbooks to take a look at the sections of the manuals that will help you decide what type of review you want to do based on your question, and then what specifics are required for that review in order to conduct that research. If you're interested in participating in one of these collaborations, then definitely follow the manual to the T. But for the most part, I don't believe that you need to follow it exactly if you are, or to choose one or the other when you are putting together your evidence synthesis review. So this is a good pause point. If there's been any questions in the chat, feel free to ask in the chat. I'm going to grab a sip of water and then I can take a look to see if there's any questions. Nikki, are you referring to the Cochrane manuals?
Yes.
Okay. So there's many Cochrane manuals. I think that there's 7 right now. Um, I don't think you need to read the full thing. It's more of selecting what relevant pieces can address the type of review that you want to do. So having an idea, that initial plan, and then going in and taking a look at the specific type of review or the type of information that you need to gather for that type of review and how to handle it. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So let's move on to reporting guidelines. A reporting guideline is a simple structured tool for health researchers to use while writing manuscripts. It provides a minimum list of information needed to ensure a manuscript can be understood by the reader, replicated by a researcher, as well as used by a doctor to make a clinical decision. It may take the form of a checklist, a flow diagram, or a structured text to guide authors in reporting the different types of research, as well as develop or describing the explicit methodology. So when you are presenting a reporting guideline, it needs to be a clear list of the items that you need, as well as, or a clear list of reporting items that should appear in the paper, as well as explains how that list was developed. So with that definition in the chat, do you recall any names of reporting guidelines that you have encountered? See one response, Prisma. Yes, that is the one of the reporting guidelines that can be used for evidence synthesis systematic reviews. My colleague, I don't have the link for this, but my colleague Rosie Henneke did a presentation last week all about Prisma. So I hope that you'll go back and watch that one as well if you want to learn more about that. Squire, yeah, that is a reporting guideline for quality improvement studies. So the requirement of uh, uh, what should be reported as part of a manuscript for that. Great. Any others? I think we'll take a look to see if there's any others using the Equator Network. The Equator Network is uh, a, a library of, different types of reporting guidelines. It pulls together all of these different consensus groups and attempts to link out to those specific types of reporting guidelines that are available. So it can be really helpful to use a reporting guideline to prepare your um, your manuscript for your own reporting of your research, but also for if you are a peer reviewer on specific a specific manuscript, are they addressing the elements that will help you understand, the reader understand what they did for their research? So we're going to take a moment and I'm going to change my share for my screen share and navigate to the Equator Network. Kim has put the link in the chat if you want to follow along on your own computer. Just to verify, if you could give me a thumbs up or let me know, can you see the Equator Network now from my screen share?
Yes, we can.
Awesome, thank you. So the Equator Network is, like it said, one-stop shop for writing and publishing. It has many links and it will direct you to reporting guidelines for various study types, including Prisma, as well as Squire, and everything in between. There are over 620 reporting guidelines that have been deposited in Squire. And so to find reporting guidelines, you can click on the library, click on search for reporting guidelines, and then you can browse through using its pre-populated menu for your study type. I'm gonna navigate down to systematic reviews. And then you'll see that there's 61 reported here. So there's lots of different guidelines for different types of reviews. And I'm gonna choose a clinical area. So this might be something that's applicable to you of, let's say, I wanted psychology. And there are 3 specific guidelines reported. So I'm going to click on the journal article reporting standards for quantitative research in psychology. The APA, Publications and Communications Board, put this together. And this record will give you the full bibliographic reference. So this is the information that you take to create a citation for your own paper. You can see that it is also has a PubMed ID. So if it was published, you can use that as a way of collecting that bibliographic information as well. And then it also has some links to the reporting guideline. So let me, oh, at the bottom here, there's also the additional information that you don't have to go to browse directly to the APA. They have the PDFs uploaded here. So I'm going to click on this JARS Quant checklist as a PDF. And here it'll give you what is required for APA journals using JARS quantitative reporting. So it's three pages, which provides almost a checklist that you can understand what is needed in order to report your investigation for this journal. So let me go back. We're back on the Equator Network. And finally, on the Equator Network, the last thing I wanted to touch on was the toolkits. I found the toolkits to be pretty helpful. in understanding the reporting guideline and what it was, what Equator's network uh, goal was with putting this library together, as well as kind of my understanding of the peer review process and what reviewers might be looking for, and using some of these reporting standards or guidelines really helps uh, uh, your understanding as a peer reviewer of what you should be looking for, and what should be shared with you in order to make appropriate evaluations of that research. So um, it is something that's pretty digestible, and I recommend taking a look to see um, uh, the Equator Network, to see if it will be helpful to you, not only for your own research, but the evaluation of others. So I'm gonna change my share again, go back to my PowerPoint, and wrap up here. So obviously, there's a lot of information out there because there's a lot of reviews on. You have to understand how to conduct them as well as report on them in a transparent way. So um, what I recommend you do is take a look at some of these collaborative networks that I've shared with you to see if they match what kind of review that you want to do, what guidance that they have for you, as well as what kind of things that you should be documenting as part of a protocol to address that reporting guideline as you're writing up your manuscript. So um, if you uh, so at this point, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself if you would like, or put your question in the chat. All right. So since no one's jumping on the question train right now, let's just move on to the last slide that I have, and then I can turn the recording off and hang out if you guys have any questions after that point. So our next session in the webinar series is Introduction to Covalence. My colleague Amelia Brunskill will be the lead presenter on that, and that'll be next Tuesday, April 16th at 1 p.m. Kim put the other webinars page in the chat that you can go and register for that specific webinar. Please join. Covalence is a really, really useful tool for screening your collected evidence, um, all the way from the title abstract screening all the way to extraction. So very, very helpful and useful tool for the scoping or evidence synthesis process. My name, again, is Emily Johnson. My contact information is listed there. If you have any questions about what I've talked about today, feel free to get in contact with me. We also are collecting evaluations on this presentation as well as the webinar series. If you could please provide your feedback, the link is in the chat. It is a Qualtrics form. It's only for questions. I really appreciate your time filling this out. It helps me improve my teaching as well as the content that I prepared, seeing how I can adjust it to meet your guys' needs. So thank you so much for bearing with me and my cold as we went through the session. I'm glad we're on a webinar versus an in-person session, but I will stop the recording after I capture the reference list. And